Hello, Holly. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
What have you got for us today then?
So, obviously, the most important news at the moment is the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, says it's an urgent national priority that the House of Lords backs his Rwanda bill.
Right.
The bill aims to stop legal challenges against plans to send some asylum seekers to Rwanda. The bill was passed last night after its third reading in the Commons. Speaking in Downing Street this morning, Mr Sunak said, the upper chamber must get on board and do, as he said, the right thing.
Yeah, I guess that's the next step. So how did the bill actually make it through? Because wasn't there a bit of a stir in the Commons last night?
Yes, there was indeed. So the bill was approved by 320 votes to 276 votes after a Tory rebellion failed to materialise in the Commons last night.
Yeah, didn't quite make it, did they?
No, dozens of Tories thought the bill was flawed and had threatened to rebel, but in the end, only 11 voted against it.
Okay, wow. Yeah, only 11.
Mm-hmm. So what is the next step then? When will the bill go through to the House of Lords?
So the next step is for the upper chamber to debate the bill and any potential changes. This could take place between the 12th of February and the 14th of February when the Common is in recess.
Mm-hmm.
After that, the next set of voting in the Lords is likely to take place towards the end of February or the start of March.
Okay, so it's not over yet. It's still an ordeal going on, isn't it?
Yeah.
What else have you got for us?
So another important part of the news has been the royals. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, has undergone abdominal surgery yesterday and is said to stay in hospital for up to a fortnight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Kensington Palace released and have said the procedure was planned and it was successful, but she's not expected to return to royal duties till after Easter.
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
They haven't released much detail other than it is not cancer-related.
Well,
Okay.
that is good news, and I'm sure a lot of people will be relieved to hear that. But didn't we also hear some medical news about King Charles as well?
We did. So King Charles is going into hospital next week. The treatment is for an enlarged prostate. Buckingham Palace have said that the King's condition is benign, so non-cancerous.
Mm-hmm.
He is undergoing a corrective procedure. The 75-year-old's public engagements will be postponed for a bit to allow him to recover. The palace have said, in common with thousands of men each year, the King has sought treatment for an enlarged prostate. A benign prostate is common in men over 50, according to the NHS website.
Wow. Well, we wish him the best of luck, and we wish Princess Kate a speedy recovery as well. But isn't it a bit unusual for the Royal Palace to share private medical information?
Yeah, so especially because the health announcements were made within 2 hours of each other yesterday afternoon. So details about the health of senior royals are usually a closely guarded secret and only announced to the public in limited circumstances. So the decision to release 2 significant updates in one day was striking. However, because of obviously being the king and also she will be our future queen, I guess they just saw it as quite important to get out.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of the people of our nation will obviously want to know how they're doing and care for their well-being as well. But give us some news then that's a bit closer to home. What's happening in South West London?
So we are experiencing bus strikes again in South West London, due to begin this Friday. They can still be avoided, however, with an improved pay offer, the union involved have said. So staff at the bus company Abellio are due to begin 6 non-consecutive days of action on the 19th of January after they voted to reject a pay increase of 5%. Walkouts by those working in control rooms and garages in Battersea and Twickenham will cause disruption primarily in South West London.
Well, that obviously is going to be a bit frustrating for residents who use public transport, but what has the union said in response to this?
So the regional officer in the London and Eastern District for the union, John Murphy, has said, if the employer comes with a new offer, we will be happy to go and talk with them, even right up till Friday morning. He also said the red buses take people to the big buildings in the city where the big money is made. So there's also a financial argument for this. I don't think it's unreasonable to expect a pay rise or to be treated with the same respect that their colleagues are given. The union and the dates will just be below, as well as the routes it will be affecting.
Thank you. I think that will affect a lot of people. It's important that we get that story out there. So what else have you got?
So with Obviously, as well, temperatures are dropping.
It's freezing.
Oh,
It is
so cold.
freezing outside. So they're dropping below freezing this week. London Fire Brigade is appealing for the public to stay safe around frozen lakes and waterways. It may be tempting to walk or play on frozen water, but the ice can easily break. In December 2022, 4 children died after falling into an icy lake in the West Midlands. Assistant Commissioner for Prevention and Protection, Charlie Pugsley, said, "Even if ice appears thick from the bank, it becomes thinner very quickly. Keep away from the edge of the open water, especially slippery banks." So what we're telling you here today is if you do fall in, here is what to do. Temperature of water is cold enough to take your breath away, which can easily lead to panic and drowning. So they have told us to just keep still, keep calm, and obviously someone will hopefully be there.
Well, that is important advice, isn't it?
Definitely. I think it's supposed to warm up soon, so I think we're all supposed to walk like penguins until that point.
We
Something
are.
like
So
that.
they have told us to walk like a penguin,
Okay.
and you're meant to just
Waddle
along.
Okay. Nice little demonstration. Thank you so much.
You're
Holly.
welcome.
And
Brilliant.
maybe with the colder weather, we can expect a little bit of snow. That would be nice.
That'd be brilliant if we can get this.
Well, thank you so much, Holly. And next, we'll be talking to our correspondent, Jess, all about disposable vapes. They've been a controversial topic of conversation recently, particularly with the government's talks of a ban on them altogether. Our reporter, Jess Little, has looked into the matter further, particularly in regards to youth vaping.
The flavour of disposable vapes has skyrocketed in recent years. If you walk down the streets of London today, you'll inevitably see somebody using one. Although they should be seen as a positive alternative to smoking tobacco, a lot of people have fears over the long-term potential effects of them and the popularity of them amongst young people. I spoke with Louise Ross, the chair of the New Nicotine Alliance, about why people should have a more open perception of them.
So I'm Louise Ross, and I've worked in smoking cessation and public health fields for about 20 years. But about 10 years ago, I became interested in what the New Nicotine Alliance did. And they're a charity that help educate the public, policymakers, politicians, healthcare professionals about tobacco harm reduction. So we know that smoking kills, smoking is very bad for people, and alternatives that provide clean nicotine without the harmful smoke are a very good thing for public health, and that's what we do. We make sure that people are aware of the comparative harms. There's a lot of controversy about the use of single-use vapes, and some people would say that they should be banned completely because young people are using them and they may never have used a vape. The complexity of the whole issue needs to be looked at, so they definitely need to be available for adult smokers who want to stop smoking. And if a disposable vape is what they want to use, then we shouldn't be putting barriers in to them using it. We hope that there is a protection, if you like, for vaping as an adult activity. What is important is that the laws that exist now about not selling vapes of any sort or tobacco to people under the age of 18 should be properly enforced, and we very much welcome the government's promise to invest more in trading standards to make sure that shops don't sell, firstly, illegally imported products or sell to people under the age of 18. This is really important. I think there's an exaggerated perception about the problem of youth use. You often hear people say everybody is using them, all the children in school are using them, and this makes everybody else think that everybody's doing it. All the under 18s are vaping like crazy, and in fact they're not. ASH, which is Action on Smoking and Health, is a very well-known charity in England, have surveyed the issue of youth use every year for several years now, and their figures show that about 88% of young people who have never smoked have never vaped either. So we're talking about a small percentage really. Now it is going up. I think it's important to look at measures to keep that trajectory.
continuously. So according to a survey from Action on Smoking and Health conducted in 2023, the growth in use vaping is actually only from experimental users. So this means that people that have just tried it once and haven't continued.
Really?
Yep. So that means that so that figure actually rose from 7.7% in 2022 to 20.3% in 2023, which obviously is quite a big increase.
Yeah.
However, in the same time period, the change in constant vape users only rose from 6.9% to 7.6%. So that shows that it isn't becoming an addiction. The figures are only rising from people dabbling with it and trying it.
Oh wow, that's really surprising. You would think that a lot more people are getting into it full time, but that I didn't realise that. That's really shocking.
And also, despite what you may hear all over social media, a lot of young people actually have never tried it. So only over 3/4 of 11 to 17-year-olds in Great Britain have never tried vaping at all.
Really?
With the figure standing at 79%.
Yeah, that is interesting, and I think that's a different story to what we actually hear a lot in the media. And what we also hear is that vaping is really bad for you and there can be side effects, and one of those rumours is about popcorn lung. But what did you learn about this, and how has it been exaggerated?
This is something that has actually been blown out of proportion by social media, according to Louise, who I spoke to.
I've seen it all over TikTok.
That's where I found it. And it was something that I didn't really look much into. Like most people, I think you do just believe what you see sometimes, especially when so many people are saying the same thing. But Louise raised the issue to me and shared some pretty solid facts linking the lung disease to diacetyl, which is a chemical that can be found in popcorn factories, which is very strange. She explains it in the video. But what she says is that vapes did used to contain some traces of diacetyl, but this was banned in 2016 under the EU Tobacco Products Directive. So honestly, at the moment, you shouldn't be able to find that in any vape at all.
Okay, so it's a bit of a myth then, really.
Yeah. And if you want to find out more, like she said, on Cancer Research UK's website, they do a very good rundown of why vapes don't cause popcorn lung.
Right.
So if you want to find out more, like how I did, that's where I did most of my research. But I do think that more research needs to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you say that disposable vapes are actually marketed to appeal to young people more? Because there's been a lot of talk about the colour and the flavours. Do you think that's something that should be changed?
Yeah, if I'm honest, I do think that disposable vapes are very much marketed towards young people. I think you see loads of flavours and colours all over the packaging that are very appealing to a younger audience. And I often see vapes that have cartoon characters on the packaging, which obviously is going to appeal to them again.
Of course.
I do think that something should be done to ensure that the packaging is suitable and aimed towards an older consumer. But I think the move to completely strip the packaging back, like what they did with tobacco products, would be the wrong one. The only reason I say that is because, like Louise said, we should be encouraging smokers to maybe move on to vaping because it is, in a way, like lesser of two evils, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But if we take the colour and everything away from vaping, it kind of puts it in the same category as smoking. And what she said is we don't want to deter people from moving on to this way of smoking.
Because I was going to say the packaging from tobacco products to e-cigarettes and vapes is completely different.
Exactly.
You know, on the cigarettes you've got pictures of health problems that can arise and frightening facts, whereas vapes are pink and called rainbow candy.
It's true. That's the thing, is what she's saying is we shouldn't be making the packaging awful. They're very explicit images as well, that they put on smoking products, and I understand why they've done it, but with vaping at the moment, as it stands, we should be, especially smokers, encouraging them to move on to this lesson.
That makes sense. So something else that I think is an important topic to discuss, obviously with vapes being disposable, what's the environmental impact of them?
See, this is an issue. Of course, the environment is negatively impacted by disposable vapes. They're being used on a very large scale, and they've blown up recently in the last couple of years, and literally millions of people are using them. And they're made from plastic, obviously, which is number one, and not a good material to be using. And according to Greenpeace, the way that they're made makes them almost impossible to recycle.
Really?
Yeah, so they're difficult to recycle because they're a mixture of materials all in one unit. So they haven't actually figured out a way to, on a large scale, be able to take it all apart and recycle all of these things properly. So as well as this, figures from the Material Focus shows that in the UK we bin nearly 5 million vapes each week.
What?
A week. That's 8 vapes a second.
That's mental.
That is
Wow.
honestly
Gosh.
a crazy figure. And of course, because of the popularity of it and how it's grown so quickly, we haven't had the time to figure out how we're going to do it effectively to dispose of them. But yeah.
Well, in one of my local supermarkets, I've seen a bin which is used for
Yes.
vapes, like we do with
Absolutely,
batteries.
yeah.
That's what I was going to say. So I think that we need to make it, especially with how many people are vaping now and how quickly the vape community, if you would call them, has grown. We need to make it so it's in every single shop, every single supermarket, how we do see with batteries,
Yeah.
so that we can be recycling it properly and make it better for the environment, because clearly they're not going anywhere anytime soon. are they?
Definitely. And I'm sure our viewers will agree with that, because obviously we need to look after the environment. And on that topic, Holly to my left will be taking us through a video all about plastic pollution and the problems in London, and explaining how communities are tackling this head on.
Plastic pollution is fast becoming a major issue across the UK, and in the bigger cities this is felt significantly more. In London alone, at least 200 tonnes of waste is removed from the Thames each year, much of which is plastic. So what are communities in London doing to attempt to combat this issue? Well, this is Refill Therapy in Hackney Wick. It's one of the many zero-waste stores that are popping up across London to offer communities a more sustainable option. I spoke to co-owner of the store, Alpesh Patel, to ask him a bit more about what is on offer at the shop.
The aim of our shop, when we finally decided we would do it, was to create a place which could be a genuine alternative to a local supermarket. Somewhere where people could come and do the majority of their shopping in a sustainable way. That doesn't always mean that it's not without packaging, because we do things that are in packages. But the packaging is either compostable or recyclable, but it's not single use. So the aim was to try and create an environment that does that. So you can buy anything that you would want on your weekly shop. So from household products like laundry liquid, cleaning products, dental, toothpaste tablets, soaps. So all different alternatives on the non-food side. And then from a food side, we do a variety of products in gravity bins, so loose, so nuts, seeds, cereals, pastas, anything like that. But we also now have a pantry section, we have a drink section that has lots of sustainable items, and we try and source products that are local. So for example, our bread is from a bakery that's literally just on the other side of the building over there. So we just try and do as much local stuff as we possibly can.
Refill Therapy is one of approximately 200 refill stores that have opened up across the UK in what's been coined the zero waste revolution. These stores are offering their communities a more sustainable option and helping to combat plastic pollution. I went down to West Norwood in the south of London, where the community there have had a unique idea about how to raise awareness of the issue.
This is Plastic Mountain. It stands in the centre of town in West Norwood to provide residents with a stark reminder of the effects of plastic pollution. I spoke to the creators behind the project.
So Plastic Mountain's a participatory public artwork all about the plastic issue. So I'm a sculptor, and I've over the last few years I've been moving away from sort of man-made materials to more natural materials. I've been making sculptures out of earth, and Adeline approached me to do something locally about plastic, and I'd had this idea cogitating, and then together we've worked on it and made it a reality.
Yeah, I think it was born also from the pandemic, because during the pandemic there was a lot of using single-use items, a lot more than we would have done before, and PPEs and all this. And so obviously there was a willingness to do something about it.
So the sculpture's about 2.5 meters high, and it's made of rammed earth. So it's soil from local gardens around the area that we compacted into a big wooden box. But the sculpture also has a metal framework inside it. And what we were doing is we were working on the pavement, and we were getting passers-by to collect litter and then attach it to the sculpture. And we had probably about 30 people, volunteers, who worked on an extended period of time helping make it as well. So then on the 6th of August, we unveiled it. So we took away the wooden box, and you could see this amazing kind of tall pyramid made of striations of earth earth with little bits of litter in it. And then over the summer and autumn, the earth has been slowly eroding, and now the litter's remained on the top half, sort of fluttering in the wind, and the earth has gone. So it's to show that nature has its cycles, even mountains erode, but plastic isn't part of the natural processes, and we think a lot of plastics could stick around for 1,000 years.
Someone who knows a little bit more about how long plastics really could last in our environment is Associate Professor at Kingston University, Dr. Rosa Busquets.
Microplastics are plastic particles. They are quite small, they are between 1 micrometer and 5 millimeters. Well, the big particles, 5 millimeters, we can see them. But when they get smaller and smaller, we cannot see them. And beyond microplastics, there are nanoplastics, so even smaller. Microplastics come mainly from the degradation of plastic particles. For instance, from this jumper, the fibers, they are big, but eventually they will become microplastics and nanoplastics. If we go to our supermarkets, all our groceries are packed, even double packed. There is very little information about how microplastic particles affect humans. We are just starting to collect it. So we think that it will affect our lungs, and the studies that are becoming available, they point towards an inflammation of our immune system, and if our body is inflamed, then we are more susceptible to diseases. We think that in 1 year or two we will know more about the toxicity of microplastics.
Our rivers, oceans and wildlife are all being overwhelmed by plastic waste, and microplastics are already entering our food and water. How could your community be doing more to combat plastic pollution?
Well, thank you for joining me on the other side of the sofa, Holly. That was such an interesting video. I love the idea of a refill store. Do you know if there's one near me?
Whereabouts are you?
So I'm in Notting Hill, West London.
Okay, so, well, like I said in the video, they are popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
So there's one called Earthly Matters, which is in Carnaby Street, so just a short pop on the Central Line for you, so you could pop over there. But apart from that, like I said, I mean, they are popping up all across London, not just in London though, but other environmental hotspots such as Bristol, Bath, Brighton and even Bedford as well. They all have zero waste stores popping up. Across London, we've got The Source, Bulk Foods, and these have locations across London, including Battersea, Chiswick, Crouch End, Putney, Richmond, West Hampstead. So they really are popping up everywhere. I mean, it'd be interesting to see if any of our viewers actually know of their local zero waste stores, because you just walk down the street and you see one. They're popping up everywhere. Refill Therapy, which you saw in the video, actually has two. The one I went to in Hackney Wick, but they've also opened one up in Stratford as well.
Amazing.
It's a really, really good initiative and allows people to do their shopping more sustainably.
Exactly, yeah. But something I am curious about is, obviously we're in a bit of a cost of living crisis. Can people actually afford to buy these premium sustainable products, and what's the price difference like to our normal supermarkets?
Yeah, so it is a really good question, and it's something I did put to Alpesh at Refill Therapy, because obviously, as you say, many premium and sustainable items tend to be more expensive, and I understand it can be a luxury. But as our viewers will see on the screen right now, Refill Therapy actually offer a conversion table which shows the people that go into their stores the prices of their items, and then the items at your local supermarket, such as Sainsbury's. And I think many stores do try to keep their costs down. So like you might walk in thinking, oh, this is going to be premium, but it's not. And also a lot of these refill stores, such as Refill Therapy, try to offer local produce as well. So the honey at Refill Therapy is created in Walthamstow, it's produced in Walthamstow, and part of the proceeds actually go to wildflowers, towards a wildflowers charity, and to help to grow those wildflowers in the community. So I think maybe it could be more expensive for certain premium items, but long run, like you're buying local produce, which is better for you, and you're helping to save the planet. So
that's so lovely, and I think it's something you don't see all too often in big cities like London, is being able to get locally sourced like fresh produce, right?
This is it, exactly.
But moving on to Plastic Mountain, I just think that's a great community initiative. So what else are they doing to raise awareness for plastic pollution?
Yeah, so they try to use Plastic Mountain as a bit of a catalyst to get people talking about plastic pollution, the plastic issue. It's not actually there anymore. So it was an exhibition that ran from the summer through to November. And it just to highlight, as the video did, the effects of plastic pollution. But as well as this, they've also encouraged local schools and local youth groups to get involved in this initiative by creating lovely murals that just highlight the plastic issue and what people locally could be doing to combat it. As well as their Plastic Mountain and these murals, they've also launched an initiative to ask people to start bringing their own containers to takeaways. I think their idea is that if you can bring a takeaway coffee, if you can bring your own coffee cup to a takeaway coffee, you can bring your own container.
That makes so much sense.
Takeaway. Exactly. Just little things like that, I think, really make a big difference if everyone was to chip in and do their part.
Exactly. We can all do our bit, can't we? So I guess it is so important that communities pull together like this, because as Professor Busquets was saying, we don't really know how bad the impact of microplastics are, do we?
No, exactly that. So Professor Busquets, she was brilliant. She's co-author in the UN Environment Programme, EEAP, in the areas of microplastics and materials. So if there's anyone to talk to about microplastics, it's Rosa. She's brilliant. So she said to me, and it was in the video as well, that scientists still don't fully understand the toxicity and the impact that microplastics can have. But people can actually inhale microplastics from the air and also ingest them in water and absorb them through the skin as well. So microplastics have even been found in various human organs and even in the placenta of newborn babies. So they can be, like, they just get everywhere. And as we said, we don't know the impact yet, but it's constantly in the news. Last week I saw an article that said scientists have now found that bottled water contains 250,000 nanoplastic pieces on average, which is terrifying because that's just one bottle of water. And it said in the article that the health risks remain unclear, but researchers say nanoplastics contain more than 100 cancer-causing chemicals. So it's an issue, it's a real issue. And I think it's something that needs to be looked at, definitely.
Definitely. Well, it sounds like through the video and through your own research, it sounds like you're raising awareness about a really important issue, both at a local level and a global level as well. So thank you so much for that. Next, we will be joined by our correspondent, Izi Thornley, to investigate what it's like working in the London hospitality industry.
Work in the hospitality industry, and how can it be improved? This is a question many professionals in the industry have battled with, and as it's January, let's see if this year is the year for change. I'm on my way to Clapham to speak to new bar owners Sasha and Matt about their experiences and how their establishment aims to be different.
So I've been in the industry for too long. We're like the mum at a sleepover. We make sure everyone gets home safe with no broken bones and no one being sick, and if they are sick we clean up after them. All we do is look after you lot and send you home safely. But that's okay, that's part of the job, that's part of what we have to do. But no one thinks about the service. The hospitality industry is worth 80-odd billion pounds in the economy per year, and no one sticks up for us. No one turns around and says, you know, it's not fair they get treated like that. I started my career, I was Starbucks when I was 19, and I've worked in restaurants and bars and all that. Then I went travelling and I opened restaurants in Australia and in New York. I've been around, I've done it all, to be fair, and coming back to London, nothing had changed, it's still the same. You know, you like to have rose tinted glasses, but it's still the same. It's big companies that own everything, and there should be more independence, and the independents that do really well don't get the recognition that they deserve. And to be honest, I've seen the industry go from being £100 cash tips every night and being treated really well to being absolutely abused by the big companies that know service charges are there to take and tips are there to take to control the hours. And you either do it yourself or you just carry on. So either be part of the problem or be part of the solution. We've opened a space that we're trying to create a great opportunity for people just to enjoy every part of hospitality, whether it be coffee in the morning or wine on the terrace. We're just trying to be a hospitable space for a lot of people, which is quite hard to define for, you know, from a branding point of view. But the point is that hospitality starts in the morning and finishes at night as well.
I'm Alex Fallow-Bland. For the last 4 years I've done a project called Wrestling Demons, which has all been about speed dating the food, drink, the art, the fashion industries together to raise mental health awareness. So back in May, I lost my mother. People donated to a good cause to offer one-to-one therapy sessions for the hospitality industry, something she always supported. And I just said to kind of offer up a bit of a Willy Wonka golden ticket with Resting Demons, and that I could walk into venues, I could talk to people, and I could offer this, and on the other side, they would be able to redeem a one-to-one therapy session. One of the most nuts bits of success that I had was doing Please and Thank You, which was a beer collaboration that I did. I recognised towards the end of the pandemic when things were opening up, the extreme levels of hostility of guests to waiting staff to be served. It was toxic. A human courtesy of just saying please and thank you to staff just wasn't happening. So I went to a few different beer brands and I said to them, I want to do a beer which is called Please and Thank You to raise awareness of staff treatment. And I want proceeds of that beer to go towards one-to-one therapy sessions. I was going into the venue and the staff were coming up to me and going, have you heard about this beer? It's called Please and Thank You, it's amazing. And telling me about it, I'm like, yeah, I'm the guy that did this. Within just over 2 months, all the sessions were gone.
As employers, I spoke to the founders of 1833 to see how their experience can help create a more positive work environment.
Coming from a corporate background, it's been a baptism of fire into the hospitality world, but I'm really enjoying transferring some of the learnings that the corporate world can give us, looking at the broader aspects of well-being and benefits beyond just pay. All of these things are things that the corporate industry have been doing brilliantly for years and investing millions of pounds into, but yet in the hospitality industry we don't see those sorts of things very often. There are 3 things that are really important to us as a new business. The first is to delight our customers consistently and to make a safe, pleasurable environment that they want to come back to time and time again. Secondly, we want to set standards for the industry. We want to be a beacon, people can see us and hopefully will follow the way that we are working. And thirdly, we really want to inspire the staff that we've got. We've hired great people and they just need good leaders to set them on the right track in their careers.
After speaking to Matt and Sasha about running an independent business in London, I made my way to speak to JJ Goodman, the founder of the London Cocktail Club Bar Group and executive head of drinks for Nightcap plc, about the difference of running a larger scale business and how the pandemic affected this.
Post-COVID, obviously, we've had some serious issues with being able to recruit. There was a couple of years of training education in hospitality that got missed purely because we were closed. So we're having to catch up quite heavily on that to bring in good people with good intentions and giving them the right skills to be able to fulfill those roles. But London Cocktail Club, when it first started out, some of our bar managers were in their early 20s running like £1 million business. It's really phenomenal how in hospitality at a very young age you're exposed to quite a stressful work environment, but coupled with the fact that you are genuinely running the face of a business.
And how would you define a stressful environment?
I'm sure you've all been in a bar or a club at some point at midnight on a Friday or Saturday night. Anything can happen. It's not impossible that 10, 15 things go wrong at once. So to be able to have a level head, and we call it swan theory, but to be able to kind of glide through those problematic situations, multiple problematic situations, your feet are going absolutely mental, but trying to keep composure is essential because it affects how the rest of the team react. They see that.
Back in the studio, we have Izi Thornley joining us now. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Just to let you all know, we are streaming live, as you know, to YouTube and to our X profile. So any thoughts, comments you want to leave us, please do. We'd love to hear what your opinions.
Definitely. And after watching that video, I love the design of those cans that we saw. Is that the only product that he brought out, or is there more?
So Alex, the reason actually, let me just give you a bit of context with the design process. He suffered from a really bad brain injury, head injury after an incident. And basically he said that he was eating with his eyes. So he designed these bottles and cans as a way to inspire people to drink.
No, well, it would inspire me to drink them. It looked delicious, honestly. They grab your eye if I saw them on the shelf.
But elaborating on that, he has also designed Mrs. Ripple and What Does It Mean to Be Different? These are 2 designs which, what does it mean to be different is there's front of house and there's back of house in hospitality. and the idea is to collaborate them. That's what he was saying about wrestling demons. It's to collaborate everyone in the industry working together, which doesn't actually happen.
Not very often.
And what does it mean to be different was brought out to basically highlight the fact that if everyone was to communicate better, both back and front of house, the whole communication process and enjoyment of the workplace would probably improve massively. And then Trust Water and Miss Ripple as like a icon type lady for the water brand is meant to make fundamental fun. That's what Alex has branded it as. He wants people to enjoy being sober and don't have to feel like it should be any less than drinking alcoholic beverages. They should all be adequate, and so he's brought out several other brands.
Yeah, I think
really interesting.
Anyone that's worked in the hospitality industry will know that there's this animosity between back of house and front of house.
Definitely.
So it's really lovely that he's trying to bring those two teams together. I think it needs to happen more, 100%. And Matt's bar looks absolutely amazing as well. So how did he find the recruiting process? Process even, sorry.
No.
Process.
I was really surprised when he answered because, I mean, typically everyone struggles in hospitality to recruit for staff, especially chefs, which I don't know, I didn't necessarily touch on that with him, but it's a common thing, it's a known thing. But take a look at what Matt says, Take a look at what Matt says in the following clip. Why is it so difficult to work in the hospitality industry and how can it be improved? This is a question many professionals in the industry have.
Sorry, I don't think we got that.
We'll see if we can bring you that clip in just a moment.
You don't want to see me again, I promise.
Do you want to try and sum up? Oh, maybe we've got it.
You're paying too much because you're getting too many job applications, and we said you're paying too little because you're getting no job applications. And the truth is, fair pay for fair work. Like, you know, if you pay people well, they will apply for the job. But that's not how a lot of the big businesses and a lot of the big companies look at it. They think they can cut the wage because the tips will come in.
That makes so much sense, and I think a lot of people in the hospitality industry are sadly underpaid.
Yeah, they are. And it's this thing of tips suspiciously going missing, you know, in big corporate companies, not to, you know, verbatim, of course, but yeah, it's just, if you pay well enough, you'll get the right team. I think that's something that, again, it's not done in hospitality. It's a bog standard everywhere else. And somehow it just seems to be an anomaly, so.
Yeah, I agree. And obviously another big change we've had in recent years is Brexit. So what's the effect of Brexit been on the hospitality industry?
This is definitely one of the most quality reducing things, I think, of London particularly.
Yeah.
So JJ said that he had some of his best workers from different countries that had come to England to progress in their careers. And obviously since Brexit, it's affected his workforce massively. He's not only struggled with recruiting since, he's also struggled to find people with the same enthusiasm, motivation, and like drive in their job role. So yeah, it's taken a massive toll on everyone. Even just like, you want to go to work to see your friends as well. And that they're not there anymore because they can't be is just, it's a whole other topic. But you know,
massively.
For JJ as a national brand, nationwide brand, it's taken a hit.
Yeah, it just ends up being like a revolving door of people coming in and out of these places, it seems.
Yeah,
definitely.
And the passion from a lot of UK workers maybe isn't the same. Matt actually said, imagine putting, you know, maybe someone that hasn't got prior hospitality experience on a 12-hour shift washing dishes. I don't know how much they're going to enjoy that. So yeah, he's having a tough time with that too.
No, exactly. So you, having spoken to everyone, what do you think? What changes do you think needs to happen to this industry?
After speaking with everyone, I think just getting someone in Parliament to speak for them. You know, it makes up, as Matt said, for 80% of like England's trade, UK's trade, I'm not sure. And no one's speaking on behalf of them where it actually matters, which after COVID, particularly after Brexit, not so much because that's, you know, voting or whatever, but with COVID, it really set us back and we've not got anyone, I always do this, sorry, I'm really connected, as you could tell, to my hospitality roots, but no one's speaking and the place where it matters is falling on dead ears. So getting someone in to speak for us, it's like when you fancy some food, where do you go?
To a restaurant.
And when you fancy a pub after a long, hard day at work,
you go to the pub.
Exactly. And they consume it themselves, they are it, and yeah, there's
there's no one speaking where it matters.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot needs to be done, but well done for, raising awareness through this video.
And I think it's fair enough that you lump yourself in with them, because I don't know many people that didn't start out one day.
I know, I did,
in hospitality. So I
it's
feel
a tough
like
grind. Respect to them all.
Exactly. So, from an industry in need of change to a man who stamped his name on motor racing, here's our correspondent Stuart Allen reporting from London and Goodwood Racetrack to tell you the story of one of London's finest racers.
Right from the start, the Mercedes-Benz went out in front. Number 10, Juan Fangio, the world champion, leading our own Sterling Moss.
From the streets of London to the glitz and glamour of Monaco, this is the story of the gentleman racer.
Speed, precision and versatility. 3 words used to describe a name that transcended generations. Sterling Moss, born in 1929, had many special moments throughout his career. But I'm going to start with his first ever World Championship win in 1955 at Aintree.
I think that was his first victory, wasn't it? And ever the gentleman. He beat Fangio, and he was very unlucky to be around in the era of Fangio, who was an outstanding world-class driver. And he beat him for the first time. Teammates they were in Mercedes. And I think Sterling mischievously thought that because it was Aintree, he'd gifted the race, that the Argentine had gifted the race to him, which wasn't true.
All that season, Fangio in Formula One led the way, and Sterling was quite content to follow in his wheel tracks. So they were known as the train, because in almost every race they would just go nose to tail and they would dominate. Mercedes-Benz dominated that year. Well, at Aintree in the British Grand Prix, they actually swapped places several times. Everybody else was quite a long way behind. One thought, well, maybe this is putting on a bit of a show for the crowd. But then Fangio seemed to have dropped back just a little bit. And Moss led the rest of the race. And right at the end, Fangio closed up. But they crossed the line close together, but with Moss in front.
But also in 1955, and my dear old dad got particularly excited about this, the Mille Miglia, which is an amazing race around the roads of Italy, 1,000 miles, and you need skill, you need bravery, you need endurance, you need to keep your eyes open for a start. And Sterling averaged 98 miles an hour. Just think of that, averaged 98 over 1,000 miles of Italian roads, and that was one of the greatest drives ever.
Averaging 100 miles an hour in a race doesn't sound particularly extraordinary until you think what the Mille Miglia was. Started from Brescia in the north of Italy and went on public roads to Rome and back, 1,000 miles. Those 1,000 miles included going through villages, going up and down several mountain passes, narrow country roads. The roads were, in theory, closed to the public, but you can't really close 1,000 miles of road. And there was always the possibility that you go round a corner and see a peasant driving his cow. Extremely dangerous. I mean, more seriously than the peasant and the cow. The whole of Italy would turn out to watch, and they would line the roads 3 and 4 deep, actually at the edges of the roads. And in fact, if they saw a car coming towards them, they would lean out into the road to see it, and then they would just move back in time for the car to go past without hitting them. Speeds of 170 miles an hour on narrow village roads lined with crowds. And that was what Moss was doing.
Between 1955 and 1961, Sterling Moss competed in the Formula One World Championship, finishing second 4 times and third a further 3. But there was a moment in 1958 where Sterling Moss showed he was much more than just a fast driver. In 1958, Moss and Hawthorn battling for the championship. Moss did something quite special in Portugal you wouldn't see today.
No, well, I believe that Hawthorn, another fine British driver, was disqualified. And Sterling Moss, who, as well as his great ability and his great character, was essentially a sporting Brit, those old-fashioned, almost Corinthian values. And and Moss took this pretty badly, I think, that and obviously he's not a great level of authority anyway, and then decided that Hawthorn should be the winner.
The World Championship battle was basically between Sterling Moss, driving for the British Vanwall team, and Mike Hawthorn, driving for Ferrari. In one of the championship rounds, it was in Portugal, Moss won the race by such a large margin that Mike Hawthorn, in second place, was still on his last lap when Moss was taking his slowing down lap. And on that last lap, Hawthorn spun off. He was then disqualified from the race. The race had finished, everybody was going home, but Moss took it upon himself to go to the organisers and explain that in his view, Hawthorn wasn't on the track, he was on the pavement when he was going back down the hill. But because it was Moss, they reinstated Hawthorn. And that was something that Moss certainly didn't need to do on behalf of his closest rival in the World Championship. And fast forward to the end of the season, Moss had to win and make fastest lap to be champion, but only if Hawthorn finished lower than second. Moss did indeed win the race and set fastest lap, but in the closing stages, Hawthorn was in third place, which means he wouldn't have won the championship. Fortunately for him, his own teammate Phil Hill was in front of him. Out came the Ferrari pit signals to slow down Phil Hill. Hawthorn went ahead into second place and won the race, and finished second in the race and won the championship by 1 point. And of course, if Sterling hadn't been so gentlemanly, hadn't shown such sportsmanship in the Portuguese Grand Prix a few months before, Moss would have been champion.
Stuart, thank you so much for joining us in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
That was so interesting to watch as someone that doesn't really know anything about race driving.
No, nothing at all, but now we know more, so thank you.
So tell us, how different was racing in Moss's era?
It's a massive difference between then and now. First point comes down to technology-wise. You think how much technology jumped in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
You're talking about the 1940s, 50s and 60s. It's a huge jump. And so then you have drivers back then who were much more focused. It had to be them. The car would break down a lot more. They'd struggle with issues, that sort of thing. But then you have a difference in terms of versatility. Now, in Moss's era, you weren't just a Formula One driver. You would be a touring car driver, a 24-hour endurance driver, a hill climb driver. You'd compete in absolutely every single individual discipline of motorsport, and you would have to be good at it. And Moss was the best at that. As in my conversation with Simon, he sort of said this, that he would be at a supermarket and Moss would want his supermarket trolley to be going faster than anyone else's. He even mentioned an anecdote about a lawnmower race. Nothing serious, just people having fun on a lawnmower. Took part in it, took it incredibly seriously, won that comfortably as well. The last difference between then and now is pay. Back then, you'd be looking at maybe salary of sort of a lawyer, effectively. When you compare it to now, you're talking Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen on near £50 million a year.
Yeah.
It's a huge jump between them, but Moss was never complained about money, he never complained about technology, he just loved racing.
Yeah.
And that's the real difference.
And I think, like nowadays, you said it yourself about the cars. There's got so much new technology that it's about the driving, but it's also about what car is better. Whereas back then, I guess you had to be really, really skilled, because it looks like with some of those cars, the only thing holding them together was the paint.
Absolutely, yeah. You're spot on. The cars nowadays are so good. You look at Formula One, for example. If you're not in the right car, you will not be the winner.
Right. Yeah.
You look at Red Bull dominating last season. It is just how it is. But I am interested to know, people in the comments, when is your favourite era of racing? Because it's a very divisive topic. People will say Senna, 1990s, or back to the 90s, or even today. But let us know in the comments. I'm really interested to see what you say.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
So, I mean, you're the expert. What do you think? Did Fangio let Moss win that Aintree?
Now, see, when I was doing my research, I had the exact same question you just asked me there. Because it's very strange to see someone of Fangio's talent, a 5-time world champion, drop back by so much. But speaking to Simon, he actually researched it. He found the answer himself, and I think we have a video. If we can play the video, we should be able to hear what actually happened.
Called Michael T, who was taking photographs at that race, and Michael T was standing right on the apex, and as the cars came through, Fangio just clipping, almost by his feet, clipping the apex. And then Michael T's film ran out, so he went behind a tree to give himself some protection because he was going to have to stop looking and change his film. And as he was changing his film, he heard the sound of a car skidding off the track and going across the grass. And it was Fangio. After the race, Michael T was in the paddock, and Fangio came up to him and said to him in Spanish, "You moved." And the point was that Fangio was using Michael T as his aiming point for the apex. And suddenly, one lap, Michael T wasn't there because he'd gone behind a tree to change his film. And Fangio went off. Now that is a story which, until I wrote about it 60 years later, was never published. It was never known. Sterling didn't know about it. When I told Sterling, he was fascinated. He said, "Well, that's news to me. I mean, I never knew why he kind of wasn't as close in my mirrors as he had been."
Well, that is such an interesting story from Simon there.
Absolutely, and it goes to show that racing drivers do have those little things. Even nowadays, they'll have a point they aim for. The moment that changes, it can throw you off. The photographer moves, and Fangio goes flying off the track, and that's why he dropped back in the end.
Wow. So why did Moss's career stop so suddenly?
So Moss started in 1948. That was his first ever race. He did stop after 1961. That was a crash at Goodwood, and apologies on the screen, some of the images may be disturbing. But what happened was he was at Goodwood, the track I was at earlier, out on the back of it, and he lost control, went off into the bushes. Had a terrible crash. You can see the sort of wreck of the car there on your screen.
Yeah.
It left him paralysed on his left-hand side for 6 weeks and a coma for 4.
Oh my gosh.
And what happened was, after he recovered, took him about a year or so, he went and did another run. He thought, okay, if I'm fast enough, I'll continue going. And he wasn't much slower. He did his normal set, not much slower at all. But he said, no, I'm retiring, because it wasn't natural for him anymore. He had to think about what he was doing. And for drivers, that's a scary thing, because you have such a split second of time to react. You can't be second guessing yourself. He did, however, though, come back in the 90s, not to Formula One, to sort of classic car, saloon racing. And he didn't officially fully retire until 2011. And he announced it at the 24 Hours Le Mans on the radio just before the start. There was a lovely message sort of saying he thanks everyone for his support throughout the years. But it's time for him to say goodbye to him.
Well, that is a shame that his career got cut short a little bit, but clearly he had such a love and a passion for the sport.
Absolutely. He was incredibly passionate, incredibly sporting. As he was saying there about Portugal, he just decided he didn't want to be a driver who won by any means. He wanted to be the winner in the right
The best. I don't know how anyone could get back in a car again after a crash like that. So fair enough for him for calling that and saying I've had enough, which is completely fair enough. Thank you so much for enlightening us about the world of driving and Sterling Moss. Thank you so much. While you're here, stay where you are. You're going to tell us a little bit about the sports headlines.
Indeed.
So Stuart, what have you got for us about sport today?
So the Australian Open going on down in Australia. We've had 4 Britons in action overnight and into this morning. Mixed results, unfortunately, for them. We've had 3 defeats with Emma Raducanu going down most recently. It was a hard match for her against Wang Yafan, I believe it is, the Chinese athlete. She lost in 3 sets.
and she did look like she was struggling throughout. She had to get treatment in the third set. She looked like she was very ill, and we know before she had anxiety issues, but not confirmed as to what it was, but that could be a reason. The Wimbledon hero, Katie Bolter, she's also out, unfortunately, to the 12th seed, Zheng Qinwen. She lost in straight sets, 6-3, 6-3. She's also out of the doubles as well. And then in the men's, Jack Draper, who had a fantastic tournament at Adelaide, got to the final. He's lost to the 14th seed, Tommy Paul, in a 4-set match, 6-2, 3-6, 6-3, and 7-5.
Oh, that isn't very good news, is it, for us
No.
Brits? Are there any successes?
There are Cam Norrie, as he seems to always carrying the flag for Britain.
Of course.
He incredibly came from 2 sets to love down against Julius Pieri of Italy. And he did incredible. He's gone through into the 3rd round, and he will be the sole Brit in the men's representing them.
Amazing. Oh, I do love Cam Norrie. That's brilliant news. So the annual London American Football Games have been announced, haven't they? So who's on their way to London?
They have indeed. They always sell out when they come to town. It's incredible atmosphere. To get a chance to go, I'd recommend it. It's incredible atmosphere. The Jaguars, Jacksonville, they are down again. It's their 12th visit to the UK. They love it over here. Their owner is the same owner as the Fulham FC's owner as well, so there's probably a reason for it with that. The Chicago Bears are coming to town as well. This is their 3rd visit, and the Vikings are on their 4th visit to London, who are also coming. There'll be 2 games at London's Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, the only stadium outside of the US designed incredibly for American football. It's an amazing place to go and see it. And there's the usual 1 game at Wembley as well.
Wow.
You going to go watch anything?
If I'm lucky enough to get tickets, I will absolutely go and give it a watch.
I've never seen a game of American football. Maybe I should go down there as well.
It is incredible. It's like no other atmosphere you'll see. It's incredible.
Oh, so that's the American football. What about the English football? What's happening in London?
Well, we've got the FA Cup just finishing the 3rd round games. Crystal Palace, unfortunately, will not be a part of the next round. They lost 1-0 to Everton last night and were subsequently booed off by their own fans travelling to Merseyside for the match. Andre Gomes' first half free kick was more than enough to see off the Eagles, who have now only had 1 win in their last 11.
Wow.
Eberechi Eze was the player who was subject to the most abuse, with his own fans chanting him, "You don't know what you're doing," whilst he warmed up on the sidelines.
Wow. Goodness.
So it's a tough period now for the Eagles and for management as well.
Okay. And what about some of the transfer news?
So it's been very quiet in London so far. There's not been the massive moves. Spurs have made a few. They've signed a centre-back. They brought in Timo Werner, formerly of Chelsea, in to sort of bolster their attack. But we've had Brentford make a signing in their back line. It's Sergio Reguilon, who's confirmed this morning by Brentford. He joins on a 6-month loan from Tottenham. There's no buy option, so he will go back to Tottenham at the end of the loan. But it's very, very quiet at the moment. Chelsea are closing the market for a striker. Spurs are as well, as are Arsenal. So all is a case of wait and see with them.
Absolutely. And at the weekend, I hear there's a chance Brentford put my teeth back in. I hear there's a chance Brentford get a welcome return.
There absolutely is. He's been very vocal on social media about this, but Ivan Toney is available to play for Brentford in their weekend game against Nottingham Forest. He's been banned for 8 months for betting breaches, which cost him potentially his England spot in last year's World Cup. Wow. But Reguilon will be available as well, so there's a chance. An injury-ridden Brentford, they have had so many injuries over the last few months. It's incredible. There's a chance for them to bounce back and have some attacking threat again. Outside of Brentford, you've got Arsenal playing Crystal Palace. That's 4th versus 14th. It doesn't get any easier for Palace. They go from losing in Merseyside to playing 4th best in the country. However, Arsenal are coming off the loss. They lost to Liverpool in the FA Cup last weekend in a 2-0 defeat, but they did not look very good at all.
Really? Okay. Well, it's great to hear some of the latest sports news, so thank you so much, Stuart. But how can normal people benefit from exercise? Well, Ruby, to my right, will be joining me to discuss the link between exercise and mental health.
Know the physical benefits of exercise, but how can moving your body help you mentally? With 1 in 4 adults suffering with mental illness in the UK, I wanted to explore how exercise can aid mental well-being and what London gyms are doing to promote this. I went down to MindFit in Crofton Park to understand how they're helping their clients not just look good, but feel good. MindFit champions exercise as a transformative tool for mental health and happiness. The studio is an inclusive, fun and friendly environment, giving everyone the chance to experience the benefits of exercise.
So I decided to centre MindFit around mental well-being rather than just physical fitness. Mostly because of my own experiences with exercise. So I had a psychotic episode when I was 19, and if you don't know, psychosis is basically delusions, hallucinations, basically a very terrifying nightmare that is real. After psychosis, I then had anxiety and depression, mostly because my confidence was absolutely shattered. Wasn't able to do a lot of the things that I used to be able to do, and I was just incredibly low because I didn't know how I was going to sort of live a normal life again. But I was encouraged by my occupational therapist to try doing some things that I used to enjoy. I started going to the gym, I started going to spinning classes, body pump, which I loved, and it just kind of, that was kind of the start of me recovering and realising how powerful exercise can be. I started working in a few different gyms and realised that much of the fitness industry focuses a lot on body image, and I felt a bit out of place. I didn't really enjoy working in a lot of places. So I realised that there was a real need for somewhere where people can exercise, but the focus is just feeling good and enjoying yourself and improving your mental health. And then it just became my sort of mission really to do something about it and offer something different for people, and create an environment where people can just be free of the pressures of needing to lose weight or changing their body, and to just exercise where they can just feel good.
If someone was thinking of coming to class, I would say give it a go. You don't know what you don't know. You might have the best time ever. It always makes me feel so much brighter after I've done a class. So much more energised, more positive. The physical achievements you get, maybe you pick up a different weight, or you do one extra rep, or you do something you didn't actually think you'd be able to, like that sort of stays with you for the rest of the day, I find. And it's that sort of achievement and positive accomplishment, I think, is really good for exercise plus mental health.
So the reason I wanted to become a PT, for me, I've been a part of the fitness industry for years. I'm 22 now. I think I stepped foot into my first ever gym probably at the age of 11 or 12. And I've always played rugby. I've always been a part of that system in terms of MindFit and why I kind of like this place a bit more. I think for me, the ethos of having a place that's more to come in mentally and to help you out with your mental health as well as physical. As a bloke, I think, I've never told a lot of people, but I went through an eating disorder when I was, I think, 16 to 18. So for me, I think it needs to be said a bit more about kind of mental health and kind of breaking that taboo. Like blokes who are into fitness or into rugby or into sport, they can't have an eating disorder or have, they can't recover from it. There's not enough stories about that, and I think if you can start off in a place like MindFit, kind of get that more local and see where it goes from there. So the ethos and the mentality here at MindFit is raise your pulse and elevate your mind. I think for me, and I think for all the other PTs and people that come here, it's a lovely little kind of slogan to go by, just because we're getting a workout in, but at the end of the day, we're not here to feel bad, we're not here to kind of push you into doing something that you kind of don't want to do. Life's stressful enough, you don't need to come in here and it's like another job. So the whole thing here is just to get a sweat on and kind of talk to the PTs and maybe have a chat, hopefully have a laugh, and then go on with the day and feel better from it.
Thank you so much for joining me on the other side of the sofa again, Ruby. That was a really, really interesting video with such a great initiative, I think. So tell me about MindFit. So what are they actually doing differently as a gym to focus on mental well-being as well as physical health?
Yeah, so obviously a lot of gyms do focus on physical fitness and transforming the way you look, because that is a selling point for a lot of people. But I think the ethos at MindFit, as Leo explained, is obviously to
move your body, but also help you feel good as well. Something that Kiki mentioned is that the classes are named after how you'll feel, based on what type of mental boost you need. So the boxing class is called Power because it will help you feel powerful, and the yoga class they offer will help you relax and realign. So it's called that for a reason. Something else I also noticed about the space is that there's no mirrors, which is really different to a lot of gyms that you'll use, because I think when people are working out, they end up obsessing over how they look. And I think it's really nice to be in an environment where you can just get a sweat on, move your body, and you're not really worrying about your appearance so much.
Well, exactly. And I think people also fixate on technique as well. Like maybe it just takes away that barrier and you can just power through
exactly
and work out.
And you've got the PT there is there to help you anyway. So
that's brilliant. I love that. So as you mentioned, sadly, a lot of people do suffer with poor mental health. How can exercise actually benefit that?
Yeah, so I was really shocked with the statistic that 1 in 4 people suffer with mental illness in the UK. I think it is obviously a real issue, and as you heard in the video, both the founder Kiki and Leo, who's one of the PTs, have suffered with their mental health, and exercise has really helped them. So the ways in which exercise can improve your mental health and contribute to general happiness is for a few reasons, really. So research shows that consistent exercise can reduce the risk of things like anxiety and depression. So moving your body stimulates the release of endorphins, like serotonin and dopamine, which are neurotransmitters. So they're basically chemical messengers in the body which tell your brain to feel good, basically. And it's related to mood regulation as well. Physical activity also helps reduce cortisol levels, which is our stress hormone. So that can obviously help people cope better with things like anxiety and stress. And exercise also enhances cognitive function, which is something I don't think a lot of people realize. And that's because exercise promotes the growth of new brain cells and improves the connections between them. So obviously it can just help your brain work a bit better. It helps with memory and attention and things like that. Moving away from the science things, in general, I think exercise just boosts your confidence and self-esteem, because as Kate explained, when you do a class and you do some sort of exercise, you push yourself, and I think you get that sense of achievement of I can do difficult things. And also you get that social connection, which I think is something we all need. You know, obviously you're working out together, but you're also making friendships, and I think that's so important.
Especially this time of year as well, because it's so difficult to get outside and go on a run or maybe go on a walk. But a class like this, where you're inside, you're in the warm, and you're still focusing on exercise and feeling good. So it sounds brilliant. I mean, do you think the sort of mental benefits of exercise might be overlooked often in the fitness industry?
Massively, yeah. I think a lot of the fitness industry is focused on physical appearance. Obviously, a lot of marketing around like weight loss products and exercises is always trying to sell people a quick fix, like, I don't know, 6-week abs or like slimming shakes. And the reason for that is because it's profitable. Obviously, these businesses want to make a lot of money, and people will buy into those things. So I think it is really important for gyms like MindFit and, you know, general exercise companies to also sell the mental benefits to people, and actually how, you know, investing in exercise and moving your body is going to make you feel good, not just look good.
Definitely, yeah, absolutely. So it's January, people will have made New Year's resolutions going forward. Maybe some have already broken them, but maybe some are going strong still. So people have made resolutions to get fit and healthy. How can people stick to them this time round?
You're absolutely right, and I would love to know from our audience what your health and fitness goals are for the new year, because I think a lot of people, like you say, will set them. So when a lot of people set fitness goals, they often focus on how they want to change physically. So they might say, I want to lose 5 kilos or drop a couple of dress sizes, and whilst those are, you know, valuable goals, I also think that because they're finite, a lot of people end up not reaching them, and then they feel disheartened, and they might just give up on exercise altogether. Whereas I think if you can change the focus to how exercise is going to make you feel, you'll actually be a lot more consistent with it. And if you're consistent with something, then the physical benefits will come along with that. So I just think it's about changing the emphasis. Obviously, like you say, January is a time where a lot of people feel
blue and down because it's so cold outside, it's so dark in the mornings and the evenings, and I think incorporating some sort of movement, something that you enjoy, is just really going to help you lift your mood and boost your energy levels as well, which is something that we all need this time of year.
Definitely, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that,
Thank
Ruby.
you.
Sticking with the topic of fitness and mental health, our reporter Holly Brencher headed down to the Square Boxing Club to speak to some inspirational women.
Starting to take part in a sport that they were once banned from. It wasn't until the 2012 Olympics that women were able to competitively take part in boxing for the first time. However, the sport is taking off for women, whether they're doing it professionally, for fun, or just for fitness. However, the question I pose today is, are women punching down barriers?
Boxing really helps with mental health because it allows me to just switch off. And if I'm not paying attention to what Martin, the coach, has asked me to do, then I'm likely to get punched in the face. And it's an opportunity to escape from everyday life and the normal things that might be stressing you out, or things that you just need to process. I think you have to listen to what you're being told to do, and you're learning a skill at the same time as exercising. So you're not thinking about what you're doing, you're not getting the most out of the whole session and the training experience.
So I guess boxing for me, from a mental health perspective, I'm in banking 5 days a week, which is pretty stressful. Long hours working on the floor. So for me, coming to box similar to Charlotte, it kind of helps me relieve that stress, have some time to kind of get my aggression out, I guess. When you're in the club, you're boxing, you're sparring, you can't think about anything else. So I think in conjunction with my, working life and then boxing on the side of that, it just helps my mental health.
Before I started boxing, I think I never really contemplated it as an option for fitness for me, because I did see it as a male-dominated sport. The reason I got into it was because my brother-in-law was training with Martin initially, and probably, I don't know for how long, he kept saying, come along. And finally I did, and was so pleased I did, because I realised I was one of many women that were attending that gym at the time. And my perception of it changed. And over the years I've met so many women that Martin has trained, and they've fought in amateur fights, and so yeah, my perception of it now is completely different, and I do feel like it's a sport just as much for women as it is for men.
Okay, so for me, women in boxing, so I would have started training originally in boxing back in Dublin. At the time, that's quite a long time back. It would have been more, of a male-dominated sport. I think I was the only female in the club. And then since boxing got introduced in the Olympics, I think then it just kind of started to change that whole concept of boxing being more of a male-dominated sport, so more girls were coming into the club. Be it from a health and fitness perspective, maybe they wanted to get into fighting and start sparring. And then coming to London, obviously training with Martin, there's a lot more females training in boxing. I think it's also down to the coach, to promote it, to encourage women, to kind of be that role model and have no differentiation in the club between males and females. And I think Martin does that quite well. So I think it's totally changed from what I've seen back in the day in Dublin and the training now today.
I then spoke to Lottie and Tara's coach, Martin, who told me what it's like for women in the industry and what it's like to coach them.
So, shall I speak the truth? Right? Okay. The truth is, I come from a country where we didn't have women's boxing for a long time, right? And I'm not used to seeing women box, to be fair. I wasn't before. So initially I was a little bit reserved about training girls and training women, but to be honest with you, I think women are doing better discipline-wise than men, and ironically I ended up training more women to actually box, to compete, than training guys, right? And it's been basically there are not as many bumps on the road. When you train girls, they just do as they do. I don't have to repeat myself, is what I mean. With guys, there's always ego, and you always have to, they always get unhealthy competitive when girls just do the job done. And I think boxing is gotten to another level since women got involved. Nowadays, I think women are just as good as guys, as men. Yeah. I'm quite picky with the people I train. So the people that train with me are basically people who are like come here and they're really ready to push their limits, right? And that's what we're doing here, we're pushing limits. I think it's getting better and better. And to be fair, professional boxing and amateur, there are many girls that box amateur boxing, right? But because professional boxing is a different sport, you can say, I think the transition is a bit more difficult for women to do. It takes a bit longer and they adapt a little bit harder to professional boxing than men because it's just purely physical. Right? That's what it is.
Holly, thank you so much for joining us again. I really loved learning about women's boxing.
It's a very interesting sport, isn't it?
It's brilliant. Yeah. Definitely. I actually had no idea how good a sport it was for women. Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So you can definitely box a lot of steam off for sure. So boxing is amazing for women in multiple ways. Physically, boxing improves cardiovascular fitness, balance, endurance, strength, and hand-eye coordination. This is where the theory of taking out your anger on a punching bag comes from. So when you're stressed, taking a few swings literally makes you feel better. Also, punching helps to relieve muscle tension that forms when you're feeling stressed, helping you feel physically relaxed as well as mentally. Another point is that you burn so many calories.
Really?
So from personal experience, I burn around 500 to 600 calories in 1 hour session.
Oh my gosh.
Mentally, it fosters confidence, concentration, resilience, self-awareness, and stress relief. So Tara and Lottie were both vocally passionate about how they rely on boxing to relieve their day-to-day stresses. As Tara said, she works in banking 5 days a week. So going to the gym and just letting it all out allows her to have that work life and mental health balance.
Absolutely. I can imagine after a tough day in the office, getting out a bit of stress and anger on the punching bag would be quite nice. But you briefly mentioned in your interview with Martin about the different rules for women in like amateur and professional boxing. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the biggest difference is the length of the rounds. So for men's boxing, there are up to 12 rounds, 3 minutes, which equates to 36 minutes. Whereas in women's boxing, there are 10 rounds and they are 2 minutes, which equal to 20 minutes in a full boxing match. It was reported early this year that some top women fighters led by Amanda Serrano had been pushing for the choice to switch from the traditional 10-minute rounds to 12 3-minute rounds for title fights. They argued that this would put women on par with men and allow them to earn more money.
Definitely.
So Katie Taylor, arguably one of the best women boxers of this generation, told The Independent that the 2-minute rounds are really fast paced. They say the 3-minute rounds will cause more knockouts, but I don't think that's true. So the thing is, there is always going to be variations of rules, regulations and equipment at different levels and potentially for different genders. These things are put in place to protect the safety and well-being in very heated and sometimes competitive sports.
Yeah, of course, like with tennis you have different lengths of the game, so I guess it makes sense we have the same in boxing, but I also understand why women shouldn't be held back and they can do just as well as men.
Of course, yeah.
But I was really shocked to realise that it wasn't until 2012 that women could legally box in the Olympics. So why was this?
So boxing for women was completely banned in the UK until 1996.
Really?
So the British Boxing Board of Control denied women a licence to fight until 1998 on the grounds that premenstrual syndrome made them too unstable to box.
No.
That's so shocking.
Oh my gosh. So the decision was actually welcomed by campaigners for gender equality who said it was an important staging post towards their ultimate aim of readdressing the Olympic gender imbalance that sees men competing for 38 more medals than women.
Wow.
Okay.
It's shocking, isn't it?
It is. So how can women get into boxing then? Obviously some of our viewers after listening to this might want to get involved.
Yeah, of course. So starting with a local boxing gym is just a great idea. They often have beginner classes and it is a fun way to get fit. The clips at the beginning were of me and my bestie training at our local gym, and on the screen this is me and my coach at the moment. So this is run by Ward's Boxing Gym and Yates's Boxing Lab. I can just say it's so fun to just go on a Thursday night, get everything out, and just it sounds weird to say and just relax, because you're not relaxing, but after you feel so relaxed because you're just getting everything out. And it is just such an easy and fun sport to get into, and any women, young and old, small or tall, can get into it.
Wow, you might have convinced me there, Holly. The dopamine after that must be amazing.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Next up, we'll be joined in the studio by Jess Little, who'll be telling us a little bit about the entertainment headlines of the day.
Jess, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you for having me again.
So tell us what's going on then. What do we need to know about the entertainment news?
So first up, I have got to talk about the showdown that took place last night on our TV screens on Love Island All Stars. I'm not sure if you're familiar. Do you follow it at all?
I'm not a watcher, but maybe I should be, because everyone talks about it all the time.
I watched the normal Love Island, but I think I need to get involved in this now.
There's so much drama because obviously they've all been on it before. They know how it works.
Really?
Yeah. So basically, last night, the explosive argument happened between Molly Smith and her ex Callum Jones, and they were both bombshells onto the show on Monday, and they only just split up from a 3-year relationship 6 months ago.
No.
Exactly. Very, very shocking. And they clashed on last night's show over their previous, obviously, 3 years relationship. Emotions were obviously running higher, and they have to live together again now in this villa.
Oh my gosh.
They ruffled some feathers on and off screen. A lot of people had a lot of things to say on Twitter. Everyone's saying they've kind of changed their opinion on Molly now because they thought that she may have been the victim in the breakup, but her reaction on last night's show kind of just showed a different side to her. So let us know in the comments what you thought about the showdown, because I'm not sure. I'm a bit on the fence.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens at that one.
Exactly.
So they were in the original Love Island together. That's when they got together, and now they're back and they're not together anymore.
Literally, and it's all very, very fresh as well.
Gosh.
So yeah, it's a very drama-packed season already, and it's only just started. So I'm excited to see
the villa with any of my ex.
No, maybe I want to start watching it now. What else is happening then, Jess?
So, talking of reality TV, I feel like I have to tell you about disgraced star Stephen Bear.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you know anything about his whole ordeal, but he basically arrived home from prison yesterday. He was meant to be serving 21 months for leaking the sex tape with his ex-girlfriend, Georgia Harrison, who actually is on the Love Island All Stars right now. So this is all connecting.
Wow.
He only served 11 months behind bars, and he arrived home yesterday for a birthday party from HMP Brixton with an ankle tag on, and he was greeted with love from his family.
Wow.
That's so interesting. So do you think he should have served longer than he did?
Well, yeah, I do think that he should have served at least more than a year. It's only been 11 months, but I can say that I'm happy to see the progress we've made, especially regarding cases like this with revenge porn, because I think it wasn't taken as seriously beforehand, and Georgia Harrison has really been advocating for this, and she's made such a difference. So I'm happy to see that something was done.
Justice has been served in some sort of way.
Definitely. What else have you got?
So lastly, I've got the Scottish comedian Conor Burns. He's coming to London.
Oh, brilliant.
He's bringing his debut stand-up show to Leicester Square Theatre on the 20th of January called Vertigo. He's now regarded as the future of Scottish stand-up, which is exciting for him, and he had a whirlwind of 2023. He spoke to us at the Londons, actually, about his American debut at the New York Comedy Festival last year, and he was saying how he's very much in the mindset that he got into this not really expecting any of this to happen. So him blowing up like this is such a positive thing for him, and he's going to take the ball and run with it while he can.
Well, of course, definitely.
That's amazing. I love a bit of live comedy as well.
I'm excited to see where this year takes him, and hopefully I can grab some tickets to that show.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be looking for a few of them.
Oh, and breaking news that's just come in actually. Oppenheimer has been nominated for 13 BAFTA Film Awards.
Brilliant.
Of course. And Barbie and Saltburn, the new show, the new movie, has been nominated for 5. So let us know in the comments as well who you think should win out of Oppenheimer and Barbie, because obviously they are often pitted.
Yeah, when they were out at the same time, there was quite a dispute between, are you going to watch Barbie, are you going to watch Oppenheimer?
I love them both. I watched them. You didn't like Barbie, did you? You weren't a massive fan.
No, I didn't. I'm sure our viewers will disagree.
So yeah, the BAFTAs will be taking place on the 18th of February, so be sure to tune in and find out who wins.
Definitely. I've been waiting for that one. Thank you so much for joining us, Jess. So, and finally, our reporter, Julius Lawless-Master, shows how one charity is reducing loneliness among older adults through theatre.
I'm here outside London Bubble Theatre, a charity in South East London which aims to provide theatre sessions for older adults living in sheltered housing, with the main aim of reducing loneliness. The Older Adults Theatre Company has also produced a new show called Beneath the Papers. I spoke to co-CEO and head of the Older Adults Programme, Lucy Bradshaw, to find out more.
We offer opportunities for older adults to come together, to meet each other, to socialise, to grow friendships and to be creative. So to find a place where they feel safe to share their own stories and to make theatre about the things that matter most to them. Sometimes that's in our tea break theatre groups, which are weekly, very gentle, social, fun groups which take place in the lounges of sheltered housing and at our building here. Sometimes that's in the Rotherhithe Shed, which is a workshop space which is open twice a week for older people to bring projects to make, mend, upcycle, tinker, explore. And sometimes that's with a performance company, so a group of people who want to come together to make a show and create it absolutely from scratch about the things that they want to discuss and share with an audience. Beneath the Papers has been fantastic. It's been such a pleasure to produce it. It's been amazing to watch the cast grow in confidence and in their own abilities during the weeks. We wanted to provide an opportunity for people who were interested in making a piece of theatre themselves, but we also felt it was incredibly important to be taking theatre made and performed by older adults into settings where other older adults live, because to see your peers perform something is such a massive leap forward into thinking maybe I could do this myself. It's no longer this kind of rarefied thing that is unattainable. There are people like you who are getting up and performing, and it opens up a conversation about the opportunity to be creative in later life. I notice a huge positive impact, and I have done in the whole 10 years that we've been running this programme. I see people coming week on week and making this a real fundamental part of what they do every week, which shows how much they value it, shows how important part of their life it's become. I hear our group members describing each other as like another family, and I see their self-belief.
London Bubble's Tea Break Theatre sessions are held throughout the week and aim to foster creativity and connection among adults over 55. I visited one of the classes and spoke to the programme's resident artist, Cecilia Garcia-Barnard, to get a first-hand glimpse of what exactly they get up to.
Tea Break Theatre is a place where people can come and connect and express themselves creatively and authentically without judgment. It's a space where for 2 hours you can come and enjoy tea, coffee and biscuits and just be silly and have fun and to take a break from the everyday life. The benefits of tea break include alleviating isolation and loneliness, a problem that we find a lot of over 55s can encounter as they get older, especially during retirement. It's also a place where their stories are honoured, so they have a platform to speak and express themselves. It's so important. We live in a very ageist society that sometimes disempowers the older members of our society and makes them feel like they don't have a place in it. But at Tea Break, it is all about how can we amplify those voices and Give participants a sense of agency.
Tea Break Theatre has been running since 2012, and in that time it's helped to give agency to hundreds of older adults. Gula Arif, who's been attending the session for 10 years, shared how they've helped him.
I have a niece who lives in Cyprus. She was here on holiday. She saw one of the brochures in Tesco, Surrey Quays. She asked me if I can bring her to have a look and be calm. And since that day, I fell in love with the place, and I never stopped coming. I've been coming almost every week. It's lovely. You meet all sorts of people. You meet all different cultures, different class, different everything. I think this session helped me by keeping my mental health in good order. I'm 70 years old and I'm not on any medication. I believe one of the reasons that I'm not on any medication is because I have my weekly sessions here.
As we bow out, let's take a moment to appreciate the heartwarming work they're doing at London Bubble. Not only do their theatre sessions reduce loneliness, they also empower older adults and remind them that they too, just like all of us, are capable of being creative.
Julius, thank you so much for joining us in the studio. That was so lovely to watch.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
So, what is London Bubble Theatre? Tell us a little bit more.
So, London Bubble Theatre is a charity in South East London which provides theatre sessions and training for people of all ages. So, they started their older adults program in 2012 and it's really grown from there. And the aim is to reduce loneliness among older adults over 55, particularly those living in sheltered housing. So the tea break fair sessions are held throughout the week at a variety of locations, so the headquarters in Rotherhithe and also in the lounges of sheltered housing. And they start with, some tea and biscuits, hence the name. And then they do some drama games and work on their acting, and they'll do a little performance at the end, showing each other what they've been working on.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds brilliant. It sounds really, really heartwarming. You mentioned that the programme focuses on older adults living in sheltered housing. What exactly is that?
So I'm glad you asked that. So sheltered housing, you might have heard it called retirement housing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's for older adults who want to live independently but feel they might need a bit more support. It's important that I stress it's not like a care home in that they don't have care packages like bathing and meals, but they do have additional support when required, so they can call for emergency help.
Okay.
As of 2020, there were 400,000 people living in sheltered housing.
Wow.
In the UK, and that number has probably gone up since. And London Bubble's Older Adults Theatre Company, they often perform to other older adults in sheltered housing in the lounges of those spaces. That's a really good way of showing them that they can get involved too. They're capable of being creative.
That's so nice. So you obviously went to see one of the plays that they put on. What was the Beneath the Paper show like?
Oh, it was amazing. It was really creative. So it's about this retired racing driver called Archie. And 18 years before the play is set, his wife disappears. And then he receives an unexpected visit and he goes on this sort of transformational journey that forces him to confront some difficult memories. And the show was put together and just completely created by the cast. They hadn't met each other, I believe, before then. I think it took them 3 months to put it together, so really quickly. And like I said, they performed it both in the lounges of sheltered housing and to the public. It was actually the first time that the Older Adults Theatre Company had performed to the public. Normally they just did older adults in sheltered housing.
Wow.
But because it was such a success, it's something they want to do again in future, which is really great.
That sounds lovely. Like a really nice community thing to go to and watch. Of course, the main aim of the project, as you say, is to reduce loneliness among older adults. How big of an issue is that right now?
Unfortunately, it's a massive problem. So in the UK, data from Age UK, it showed that 1 million people in the UK go over a month without speaking to a family member, a friend, or a neighbour. And that is just, it's heartbreaking.
It's so sad.
There are a number of reasons why loneliness is so prevalent amongst our communities. One main reason is that as you get older, your mobility decreases. That limits your ability to go outside and meet people. especially if you don't have family members close by you.
Definitely.
For some people, they might lose a long-term spouse, and that really affects them.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's heartbreaking too. And maybe their children have moved away. And as well, for some people, they feel that when they retire, they might lose their sense of purpose. And actually, they feel they're no longer valued. And actually, another data set from Age UK, it showed that only 13% of older adults in London over 60 feel valued. So only 13%.
Wow.
Sad, yeah.
Yeah, it's very sad. So what London Bubble is all about is helping to empower older adults and giving them that sense of agency.
Well, it sounds like they're doing really amazing work to help older people get involved in theatre and also to combat loneliness, like, as you say, is a real problem. So thank you so much for sharing that with us today. And just want to say thank you to everybody who's tuned in and watched.
Absolutely, yeah. If you've missed any of the programme, you can look back on our social media, on our X page or on our YouTube page, The Londoners News. But thank you so much for everyone who has joined to watch our stream today. I'm Holly Nichols.
And I'm Ruby Smith.
Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.
Bye.